Welcome back to my mental health and crime channel. My name is Huda London. This is for educational purpose only. I'd love to start by wishing everyone a happy new year. I'm sorry, I'm a bit under the weather. May the 4 victims rest in peace, condolence to their families, and may the correct justice be served. A year ago, I'm sure most of us have seen this report on News Nation. It was leaked from the grand jury that the 2 surviving roommates were texting each other under the massacre. So while the Unalivings was going on, DM and BF were texting each other, allegedly. If they were texting each other, why couldn't they just dial 911? I understand they were scared. And if that was the case, why didn't they call the police after the suspect or suspects left? Many people, many students and friends of the victims and family, like Xana's sister, Katie's friend Ava, were all called before 911. Hunter Johnson was called and he called 911. The 911 call is still under the gag order. That is the most interesting thing for me. Usually, in unaliving cases, we always hear the 911 call. Like Joe Bennett Ramsey, many other cases, we've always heard the 911 call. But this case is just a unique case. Everything was put on gag order. Now this is serious if it is true. The surviving roommates were texting each other. So obviously that means they were in separate rooms. But I really wonder if DM was on the second floor or if this was just made up later. I never believe in the timeline after 3 a.m. Or sorry, after 4 a.m. I believe something happened between 2 to 3:30. Just pay attention to all the movements happening in the Banfield. Everything can't be a coincidence. I refuse to believe that. We have 3 young men running away, walking away from the police, although they were told to stop. I wonder what they threw in the field. Is DM and BF actually witnesses? Because the police said in the very beginning, Chief Fry said, I never said that the surviving roommates were witnesses. I just said they were there.
Hi, Heather Roberts with ABC News. Just to follow up on what she asked, so the other 2 roommates were there at the time of the attack?
All the information that we have from our investigation is that yes, they were.
Okay, but they were unhurt.
That is correct.
So is there any explanation as to why it took so long then for someone to call 911? You have surviving witnesses to an incident at 3 or 4 in the morning and the 911 call didn't come until noon?
I don't think I ever said that they were witnesses. I said they were there. So, we don't know why that call came in at noon and not in the middle of the night. wouldn't we love for that to have happened? Yes, but that's not how it took place. So that's why we're investigating everything still, to try to pull all the pieces together.
Hi, Heather Roberts with ABC News. Just to follow up on what she asked, so the other two roommates were there at the time of the attack?
All the information that we have from our investigation is that yes, they were.
Okay, but they were unhurt.
That is correct.
So was there any explanation as to why it took so long then for someone to call 911? You have surviving witnesses to an incident at 3 or 4 in the morning, and the 911 call didn't come until noon?
I don't think I ever said that they were witnesses. I said they were there. So, we don't know why that call came in at noon and not in the middle of the night. Wouldn't we love for that to have happened? Yes, but that's not how it took place. So that's why we're investigating everything still, to try to pull all the pieces together.
Were they one of the people, were they the 911 caller?
At this point in time, I'm not going to divulge who our 911 caller is, just because I want to keep the integrity of the investigation at this point, okay?
Okay, and last question, are you able to tell whether the same weapon was used on all 4 victims?
That's why we're having the autopsies done. The autopsy will confirm that and hopefully collect some evidence for us, even from those. That's why you do the autopsies, is to try to be thorough and try to gather more. So we'll leave that would probably be something that would come out later.
Chief Fry did not look like he was prepared for this interview. Although I understand under the circumstances of what happened, he wouldn't have been completely ready. I don't understand why they didn't have the police press agents speaking for them from the very beginning. There was a lot of misinformation, a lot of rumors going on that was never cleared, but you heard clearly what Chief Fry told the ABC reporter. He said that I've never said that the surviving roommates are witnesses. I said they were there. The surviving roommates were never witnesses in the beginning. They became witnesses when Brian Christopher Kohlberger was arrested. The timelines were changed when Brian Christopher Kohlberger got arrested. Pay attention to what was happening from the beginning. The case was put on gag order for some reason. Multiple people were talking to the 911 operator. So you had at least Hunter Johnson there, since he called 911. You have the surviving roommates there, and you had a bunch of other people there. So the touch DNA of Brian Christopher Kohlberger could have been his, or it could have been planted there. A crime scene is not supposed to be tampered with. So now you'll heard this from the chief himself. The surviving roommates were never witnesses. They were just there. So my question is, were the surviving roommates actually texting each other? And after the unalivings, why didn't they call 911? Did they know the suspects or the suspect? Why did they feel so confident that they would be safe? DM was opening her door 3 times. She heard Kaylee, somebody who sounded like Kaylee, saying there's somebody here. She heard whimpering coming from Xana's room. She heard the thud. She heard a man saying, I'm here to help. And yet again, they didn't have the need to call 911. The front door was wide open. And it was an old creaky house. So people would have heard all the commotion that happened inside the house. BF was at the Sigma Chi or Sigma Chi fraternity party from the very beginning.
Revelations in the brutal murders of 4 Idaho college students last fall. A new report claims the 2 roommates who survived the massacre were awake and texting each other while their 4 friends were stabbed to death one by one. This new revelation reportedly coming from grand jurors on the case and leaked to family members. Now, the only suspect, Brian Koberger, is still awaiting trial. According to the probable cause filing, one surviving roommate says she witnessed the killer, described as having, quote, bushy eyebrows, walking past her and then out of the home. Prosecutors say they do have Koberger's DNA found on a knife sheath left under one of the victims, and the judge has entered a not guilty plea on Koberger's behalf. Let's bring in Misty Maris, legal analyst and trial attorney. Misty, thank you so much for your time. So this is a new twist. It allegedly comes from grand jurors in the case, but no one is going on record. What was your initial reaction to this potential bombshell?
As far as this is concerned, it's really difficult to verify whether this information is actually true. So let's go through a little bit of the history of the case. When the news first broke about this terrible, tragic killing, we learned that there were 2 roommates who survived the attacks who were in the house at the time. Now, at first we heard that they were both asleep. They didn't wake up till the following day. Then hits the probable cause affidavit. Well, the story begins to change. One of the roommates now had this encounter where she sees the assailant in the house that evening. So this is a dramatic change from the information that was set forth in that probable cause affidavit, if it were in fact the case that the 2 roommates were awake and texting during that time. So what does it mean for the case? Well, that would certainly be contemporaneous evidence relayed in those text messages as to what the 2 roommates heard and saw that night. Now, again, we haven't verified whether or not this is true, and we likely won't know until the trial actually unfolds. But it would certainly be a game changer for the prosecution.
Well, it certainly would, Misty. And we know that there is, a gag order in this case. That's, a fact that we need to remember. So what happens if someone keeps leaking information, whether or not it's true, and even if they're doing it anonymously?
If the leaker is a grand juror, there are very, very strict rules about what grand juries can say in the public sphere. Now, those rules change jurisdiction to jurisdiction, but Idaho has a similar rule to New York. Grand jurors are not allowed to speak to anybody about the evidence that they see in the courtroom, about the deliberations as far as coming to that conclusion of actually coming back with an indictment. So this would all be completely off limits if in fact a grand juror was leaking this information. And there could be serious repercussions. It could be contempt of court. It could put the whole indictment at issue, depending on the nature of the communication. So that is certainly a problem. The gag order is really far and really expansive with respect to the prosecution, the defense, and any statements made or evidence that comes into the public sphere. So yes, there are very serious repercussions as far as contempt of court type charges and even jail time that could be associated with that. Now, that being said, anonymous leakers are sometimes, number one, difficult to verify and sometimes difficult to identify. So it truly depends on the nature of the communication and whether or not that person can actually be tracked down. But keep in mind, anything that comes out in the public outside of the courtroom could potentially find its way into the trial, depending on how this happens and how the information has come to light.
Thank you for.
I wonder if that is the exculpatory evidence that Brian Christopher Koberger said that Bethany Funk had. Bethany Funk, John Roger Showalter Jr., and DM have all studied in Boise, Idaho, the same year. So they have connections in Boise, Idaho. So BF was texting DM. I'm sure she saw someone outside a window. They must have heard all the rummaging upstairs. Why didn't they call 911? Were they involved? Was this an inside job? Is my question. This doesn't make sense. Who logged off Kaylee Gongalves' LinkedIn account 13 hours after 911 was called. There were so many things happening that night. Showalter said, "You know they're going to get you for that, Maddie." He passed a threat. That is a proper threat. He got arrested recently for disturbing the neighbors. He got a misdemeanor for disturbing the peace and such things in Boise, Idaho. His family is very well known and well respected in Boise, Idaho. They all are doctors. I just don't like the taste of this case. Should have never been moved to Ada County in Boise, in my opinion.
You don't mind elaborating a bit more on those two people? Was it two people? What have those people shared about the circumstances of that night, what they saw or didn't see? But I'm not going to go into what they shared that night. Obviously, that's part of our investigation. That's part of the information that we're trying to build our complete story with. So, as far as that goes, we're not going to go any further into what they know, what they don't know. How many were there? We believe two.
Ted Williams, Fox News. You all have said that these killings are targeted. Can you share with us why you believe they are targeted killings? And do you know who, if any, of the victims were the actual targets of the killings?
As we stated earlier in the previous press release, or press conference, we believe they're targeted because we take a totality of all the circumstances that we're looking at. Do we know any one person that it was targeted? We're not able to say at this point in time due to our investigation, but we still believe that. But we, like I said, we take a totality of everything that we're looking at.
Hi, I'm Emma Epperly from the Spokesman Review. I know you said you're not going to release who the 911 caller was, but was the killer the 911 caller?
I will tell you no.
Can you clarify, you said it came from the roommate's phone, but you didn't say the roommate made the call. So did the roommate make the call on the roommate's phone, or can you clarify it was another additional call?
Actually, if we can just go to this one first. So what I'll say to that is it was made from the roommate's call, or phone, excuse me, and we're not going to divulge who made that call. It's part of our investigation still, and when we get ready to release that, we will.
Why did the surviving roommates decide to call Hunter Johnson? I know that Hunter is Eaton, his best friend, but I'm sure they're closer neighbors to call than Hunter. Why Hunter? And where was Hunter that night himself? The 911 call is extremely important in this case, I believe. There's a reason they put the 911 order in a gag order. I personally believe. Because let's not forget, it was said that multiple people were speaking to the 911 operator. So all their voices are recorded, and it's going to be interesting if they all are brought to court. I'm sure they will be. I wonder if they moved the victims. I wonder if they touched any evidence. Everyone has actually an opinion in this case, and most of us have several opinions in this case. This is a unique case, but I still stand by the fact that the frats, sororities, and the college students especially are behind this horrific unalivings. That's my opinion. It's over 2 years I've been paying attention to this case and researching. And when you look at all the actions that were happening outside that night, the Sigma Chi or Sigma Chi fraternity party, the fact that the police never gave us Zan and Ethan as proper timeline. Not everyone came home at 1:45. Kaylee and Maddie came home at 1:56. And they still did not correct the timeline, the police. Why not? Zan and Ethan called Ethan, his best friend, at 2:10. He saw him at Sigma Chi fraternity party. His mother called the FBI and told the FBI. But that wasn't still changed. The timeline wasn't changed. I've always said pay attention to the couple's timeline, Ethan and Zana. Something is really wrong there. I believe the reason the surviving roommates did not call 911 is because they knew it was the fraternities who were behind that. In my opinion, the 3 boys at the Banfield body camp, Saeed, the 4 figures running, I personally believe they all are involved. Saeed was watching crime scene pictures. Let me know what you all think. Have a happy new year, guys. I'm sorry I'm being a bit under the weather, so my voice is not clear. But I just wanted to share this. Have a lovely day. Please like, share and subscribe if you enjoy the contents in this channel.